everybody, and welcome back to the Outside Insider. I know it's been a minute. It's just been a wild week of work. And funnily enough, the one Eagles game this year I haven't been able to watch. I was away with family stuff. They ended up probably with their biggest win of the season against the Bengals. It sucked not watching it. But look, if I'm the reason the team has won, then maybe I'll just take one for the team and not watch any game for the remainder of the season. Maybe that is now the meta for how this team wins a Super Bowl. But watching the game, when I got back, it was very obvious that maybe I wasn't the root cause of that win and there was something much bigger going on. And it was just a brilliant win. I mean, that was the kind of win fans have been clamoring for all season. Because the thing is with this team, like we've said since the opening game of the season against the Packers, is we know what they're capable of. We know what this team can do. We know how talented they are, how top to bottom, how lethal this roster is. And the fact that they just continued to miss the mark with self-inflicted wounds, with bad coaching decisions, with poor execution, all the pieces of the puzzle were there, and they just couldn't quite get it together. And then they come out of the bye, they face two easy opponents, which in retrospect, maybe they just needed to get themselves in check, to build a bit of confidence. And then they go into Cincinnati on the road against a team which admittedly had some injury problems of their own, but they're still a very good team. You know, Joe Burrow is still a top 5 quarterback. Jamar Chase has been to the Pro Bowl, I believe, every single year of his career. This is not a bad team. This is not a middling franchise. This is one of the AFC juggernauts on their turf. And to start the way they did, and I'll be honest, before I get to your comments, like I said, I was away with some family stuff. I was sneaking. I was trying to look at the game. All right, I had the box score up. I had the little ESPN animation going. And the first few drives weren't overly encouraging. And then I turned on a stream like towards the end of the first quarter. Saw them get near like field goal territory. I think they ended up like 3rd and 16 or something. And I was like, well, maybe it's for the best that I'm not watching this because it's another first quarter they've not scored. Maybe, just maybe, it's not meant to be. And then I checked back half an hour later and my, oh my, how the tables turned and how different that team played. So I'm watching the game today. A lot more was apparent and we're going to get into it. I've thought of the very perfect analogy for this Eagles team. Doesn't involve a relationship, doesn't involve heartbreak, doesn't involve a wedding in 10 years or a heartbreak from 10 years ago. I am eternally proud. It could be my magnum opus here, so we'll get to that as well. But before we do, we'll get to a few of your comments and check in on you guys. Win says, what up, ladies and gents? What a win, as his name says. Sick new chat overlay. Is there? All right. I'll pretend I did that. I do work for YouTube on the side, so that is, I'll pretend that was all me. I might have to take one for the team, Liam. So, well, I'll see you later, guys. It was me. Sorry, I'll see myself out. But just a monumental win. And I think the best way that I can describe this, honestly, is the Philadelphia Eagles in 2022. Well-oiled, some would argue ahead of their time, okay? Like, it was the future. Jalen Hurts was not only an MVP candidate, he was the future of this team. Devontae Smith wasn't just a breakout star, he was the future cornerstone receiver of this team. You've got great rookies coming in. You end up making a Super Bowl, overachieving those expectations. That season was the PSP, the Sony PlayStation Portable, all right? A handheld so far ahead of its time. It did everything you wanted. It could play music. It could play movies. It could play games. The games themselves, borderline PS3 graphics, somewhere between PS2 and PS3. All of the big hitters were on there. All of them were getting ports onto the console. You could play it online. You could open a web browser. You could customize everything. You could jailbreak it if you wanted to. You could do everything on that console. And then a few years in future, Sony decided that that wasn't enough. And they went out and released a handheld by the name of the PlayStation Vita. Right now, for the real sickos who may have owned one of these things, you'll know that, again, looked ahead of its time. Just no support, no games, like very, very few first-party games. It required its tiny, tiny little memory stick that was only manufactured by Sony, so you couldn't buy a generic one for $10 off Amazon. It had to be this $50 thing for 8 gig or whatever it was. You've got games that were just too much. It was 2 analog sticks, had a touchpad on the back and a touch screen on the front. It was too much. It was doing too much. And that's what the Eagles are now. Now, if the Vita are released today, it would easily surpass the Nintendo Switch, in my opinion. I think it was a fantastic console. But that is the Eagles in 2024 up to last game. They were a PlayStation Vita. They were a console that had all of the makings of something truly, truly magical. First-party launch titles, dual analog sticks, touchpad on the front, touchpad on the rear, intertwining them both in the game. You had remote support so you could play your PlayStation 4 remotely on your console. You could like download these like PlayStation exclusives through their subscription service that were just incredible, and like out of market games which you could never previously get, you could get them on the console. So for me being in England, I could get like MLB The Show and stuff. And it was just a beautiful console that no one bought. No one bought it because there weren't enough games, because the features were just too futuristic. It was too ahead of its time. There wasn't enough going on. And the Eagles came into this week with a PlayStation Vita and they said, we don't need a touchpad. We don't need all of this motion. You can take off one of the analog sticks. We don't have to start, trying to get too complex offensively. Let's take back all these like YOLO shots to AJ Brown deep down the sideline and only the sideline. What about the middle of the field over there? Has anyone? Why don't we go back? Because that worked. The PSP worked. Let's go back to that. Let's take out the excessive graphics and the PS3 ports and the cross-play and all the rest of it. And let's just get back to what made our first console so special, which was option plays. It's spreading the ball around. It's utilizing the middle of the field. And it is building confidence. More importantly, using Jalen Hurts' legs. More than anything else, use Jalen's legs. Like, I think that is the most confident we've seen him run in a long time. We saw him do it, I want to say week 2. There was a flaunt of it against the Packers. But I want to say week 2, he kind of did it a bit more. But everyone was, he looks slow. He's a bit out of it. Maybe he's not the same Jalen. It's like, well, let's just get him going. Send him on a run up the middle. And not just these little QB ones where he keeps it and goes on a direct snap under center. Do an RPO. Do an option. Get the ball moving. Because when you do that, and you have to respect not only Saquon, not only Jalen Hurts, but it opens things up for the guys on the perimeter who can now make space over the middle because they're all keyed in on what's happening in the backfield. They've taken off the rear touchpad. They've taken off the fancy touchscreen. They've taken off all of these other features and the dodgy memory card, and they've just gone, look, the PSP was our most successful console of all time. Let's just run with that. Let's just be what we've been, which was the most dominant handheld the gaming industry has ever seen. It had everything, and you just got too complex, and you tried to do too much, and there were too many changes, both personnel and coaches for the Eagles and features for the console. And it just, the identity got lost. And now you go back and you watch that game and you say, do you know what? That's an Eagles football team. That team has an identity. The physicality on that team, especially on offense, I think, like, bear in mind the injuries that they had. No Mekhi Becton, no Jordan Mailata. You're coming up against Trey Hendrickson, one of the most dominant pass rushers of the season, came into the game with 7.5 sacks to his name. Okay, you go in short-handed. You're expecting a lot of pressure. You're not expecting to be able to unfurl these deep shots, and yet they do. How? Because they keep it simple. They get the Bengals to respect the run. They get them to respect the option play. Then they take it out to the guys outside. First half, Saquon barely touched the ball. Second half, they were able to because of all of these other moving parts, and it worked because the confidence was there that this is an identity. There's one play, I want to say it's a Devontae Smith touchdown where Jack Stoll, no, it might even be the Saquon one, I beg your pardon, where he gets to the end zone and doesn't quite get in. Like, he gets shoved out at the very end, and then obviously they run it in with Hurts on the tush push. But I think it was that one. Jack Stoll puts in the block of a lifetime. I am talking like Brian Dawkins on a snowy Saturday night up Brian Dawkins, storming through and laying someone out. Like, it was just a remarkable block. You could see it on the offensive line. You could see it with the receivers. You could see it with Jalen Hurts. Hurts was stepping into the pocket. There was none of this just sitting back, back foot. None of that. There was like a sure, which bear in mind as well, in a situation where you do not have your starting left tackle, you do not have your starting right guard, and you're the man calling the protections because the center has changed. You've got Jalen Hurts now back there able to do what he does best. It was Smitty's touchdown. There you go. So Bird Brain chimes in. Stoll blocked Hubbard for like 4. It was unreal. Like Jack Stoll, who we've all just previously assumed was like a utility guy, someone that has something blocking, but he isn't very good at receiving, and he's just there as this like backup to Goddard, and you never notice. That's the first time, in all honesty, I've ever noticed Jack Stoll in a game. And I'm promise I'm not trying to be mean or facetious, but from like a positive perspective, where that man has jumped off the screen, and I've gone, wow. Who was that? Because that wasn't calculated. That was Jack Stoll. Jack Stoll is laying people out like that, and he's like a vicious bulldog, just will not let go of that toy. And that set the tone, and it opened things up, and they just get back to being what they were, which again, the PSP, greatest handheld of a generation. I don't care about your DSEs. I don't care about your Game Boys. I care about the thing that could do it all, that had a little bit of everything. Just like the Eagles, they've got 2 great receivers. They've got a receiving tight end in Calcaterra, who put up, 53 yards, I think, in absence of Dallas Goedert, who is playing exceptionally well for a player of his, I would say, like, reputation right now. You've got a generationally gifted running back. You have got a debatably top 10 quarterback on his day. I believe he can ascend much higher, but if we're being honest right now, you've got everything. You don't need the bells and whistles. Like, yes, the motion's cool, but it's just like the rear touchpad. It's great. You can do all this thing, but like, is anyone going to support you with a first party game? It's great that you can remote play your PS4, but is anyone buying it in the first place to do it? And it was just featureless. And you had all of this noise, all of this confusion, misfires, poor blocking, like fumbles, and no one really knew. And then you walk into it, and it's like they've just stripped it back and gone, well, let's just go back to what made us great. Get Jalen running the ball, bring the defense in so that they have to respect the running ability of a guy that is otherwise, become a bit of a pocket quarterback in recent times. And they look at how much things opened up for Saquon Barkley in that second half. And a massive credit to Kellen Moore. Because how many times in Eagles history have we seen a running back not do very well? They start the game shaky. Like, look at the Miles Sanders era, for crying out loud. We're talking 3 yards, 4 yards per carry. Not a lot at a push. He might get 1 8-yard run if he's lucky. And then they go, well, the run's not working. It's like, Nick, it's been one drive, mate. It's been one drive. He's just struggled for one drive, Nick. No, run's not working. Air raid time. Get it down there. And they'll just abandon the run, and they'll go all in on the pass, and then they fall so far behind, and they don't have the rhythm and the balance to get things moving, and they blow it through that reason and that reason alone. So to go into a game against the Cincy defense where they ranked, I think it was 27th, I want to say, against the run coming into that weekend, right? They were not brilliant. And they couldn't run the ball. Like the first quarter or so, they could not run the ball. They were bottling Saquon up. That might be what prompted a few Jalen Hurts runs to try and carve them open a bit and just blow open these Band-Aids that they've put on. And in the second half, Kellen Moore comes in and goes, we're not abandoning it. Steamroll it with Saquon. This guy is a generationally gifted running back. He will tear open a defense. That is suspect if you keep giving him opportunities. It is not an equivalent of just, wow, we'll keep throwing it and see if something sticks. You know how dangerous Saquon can be. You know how effective he's been. So keep running him against a very poor run defense and things will open up. And they did. And I genuinely can't remember a time where the Eagles have done that without deviating from it. That's the first time in it must be 2 or 3 years where the run hasn't worked in the first quarter and they just stuck with it. And they said, we're going to be physical. I think they're second in the league in rushing. We're going to run the ball down your throats. I don't care if Lane's out, if Mailata's out, if Steen's in, if Becton's out. It doesn't matter who's in, who's out. We're going to run the ball the same way. We're going to try varieties in the way we run the ball. And Wynn says it there. Our run game gets more and more elite every game in terms of design. There's a lot more going on, 100%. And I really think that this was the validation that fans needed. And I don't think it's a time where critics, myself included, can have to sit and apologize and say, well, I was wrong. But if we've bullied them into good football, if we have come out and said, look, this isn't working, and the coaching staff have actually listened and they've actually taken it on board and they have changed it, that's all you could ever want. That's all you could ask for from this team, is that they listen, they understand that it's not been working, and they continue to just innovate and find what does. And there has not been a better example of it than in a game where the run wasn't working in the first quarter. They continued their season-long streak, 8 games now, where they have not scored a first quarter point, not even a field goal. And you're starting to think they're going to get away from the run again. And they just don't. They stick with Saquon. They run the ball. They try different things. They get Jalen running. And that opens things up to a point. Calcaterra can be dangerous. To a point, Jack Stoll can be a menace in the block game. To a point, AJ Brown can do what he does best. Smitty finally gets the touchdown he's been waiting for. It's the kind of thing you've been waiting to see for a long, long time. And I'm just happy that it did. I came away from that game relieved that we can be positive about Eagles football and say, look, they learned something there. They really figured it out. And I hope it stays. I know, obviously, now I believe it's the Jags that they face next. The Jags and their 0 receivers, by the way, because they're all on vacation in Cancun, I believe. So that'll be fun. All right, that should be another win. And then you're talking about a team that, be it mostly ugly, apart from last game, has won 4 games in a row, heating up at the right time. Washington have got concerns over Jaden Daniels. Dallas are troubling no one. New York are troubling no one. The NFC East is now back in their sole possession. And that is, frankly, all you could ask for. It's all very well scraping games, but if you can win like that, win like you did against Cincy, then the sky is the limit, because now the confidence can build. And again, I think it goes back to what I said my last stream, which feels like forever ago. Again, I'm really sorry. There was a ton of stuff with PSN and Metro, like Metro Philadelphia, the newspaper. I was trying to help with that, and it just meant I had to take about a week off to get all the work sorted, and then a couple other things came up. But yeah, we're back. So by the time I last streamed, as I was saying, this Eagles team just didn't have anything. There was no substance to it, and they were just trying too much, and no one really understood why they kept just barely scraping through and why nothing would change. And it's now finally just set in that maybe, just maybe, they'll be all right. Now they have an identity. We know it now. Like that's the first game all year that their identity has been glaringly obvious, and couldn't come at a better time. Alex T says, Liam, are you still shaving your head if the Eagles win a Super Bowl? I'm going to have to. I'm going to have to shave my hair if they win a Super Bowl. Like, a bet is a bet. I tweeted it in the heat of the moment. If I've got to shave it, will my girlfriend leave me? There is a high probability. Is it? Well, look, it's going anyway. All right, the hairline is going anyway. Who am I? But to look at that, look, that's begging to be in a corner. That is banging in a header in the back post. If it's going anyway, it might as well go out with an Eagles Super Bowl. I think that has to be the bar. So will I be watching the Super Bowl if the team make it, shaking with my leg bouncing up and down, hitting a vape every 5 seconds? Probably. But a bet's a bet, and I shall honor it. This team could be better than 2022, especially on defense. Yeah, let's talk defense, because I know I've seen a few comments here talking about the 2 wonder kids on this team, Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean. There is only one play that I want to start with here with Cooper DeJean. You already guess it. The 4th and 3, the Jamar Chase call, the screen. DeJean is running around like a fiend, like a werewolf before that snap. It's like he knows what's coming, and he's trying to follow Chase, and then he realizes, no, I should be here, but I know he's going there, but I should be here. And as soon as that ball snapped, darts out, like absolutely darts to the ball carrier behind the line of scrimmage, wraps him up. Maybe the biggest play of the game. And I'm not even talking in terms of like impact, but just the momentum that it carried. And the fact that this is a 21-year-old guy in his 3rd NFL start, I think, 3rd or 4th. I want to say 3rd, right? And he's getting continuously expanded roles. Like, you're not just seeing him in the nickel now. Like, and even if he starts in the nickel, it's obviously zoned in a way where he's playing hooks and curls and he's kind of moving around as this like roaming, honey badger-esque type role. And it's working wonders. And I said a couple of weeks ago that his return might open things up for the pass rush. It might get things going because they've got someone now that they can use off the line of scrimmage. They can bring him down into the backfield. And that in itself is going to open up things for guys that are struggling. Like I don't know, who's a guy that was struggling that's just blown up out of nowhere? Nolan Smith? Anyone? What a game by him, which got to be said. The guy was unbelievable, I think, on Sunday afternoon. But again, I think a lot of it and that breakout and the fact we're seeing pass rushing production, it's not necessarily DeJean himself, but it's just having someone that can fill that role because they didn't before. Avonte Maddox can't tackle. He's not the corner he was, all right? He's okay in coverage if he can keep the ball in front of him. I don't trust him to burst down. I'm pretty sure he missed a tackle yesterday. I don't trust him. Cooper DeJean, I do, because he just has a bit more burst to him. The instincts are just hotter. And I don't think he's necessarily right all the time, but he's athletic enough where if he's wrong, he can certainly backtrack or get himself into a favorable position. And you're just seeing someone again that is getting up to NFL speeds, that is learning the playbook in a way that is just blending perfectly into his skill set. And it's fun to watch. Quignon, brilliant. I think he could well be in line for Defensive Rookie of the Year. I doubt there's... Look, I know the edge rushers are favored to get it. Am I biased with Quignon Mitchell here? But you're talking about a guy that wasn't even a starter until week 1. He didn't have his role cemented. He's the only one of all of those rookies playing in about 70 to 80% of snaps per game. And he's performing. It's just going to take 1 or 2, 3 interceptions, a few more marquee plays. But he had a couple reps on Jamar Chase. Very solid. I'll tell you what, who else stood out to me? I know we've mentioned that Nakobe Dean in the comments. We'll get to him very shortly as well. But Reed Blankenship. And again, that is massively flying under the radar. But Reed Blankenship was close to the line of scrimmage more times than I can count. He was blowing up plays left and right. And while I don't think he made anything huge, there was no highlight-worthy play, no head-turning moment that's going to erupt a stadium. There were just I don't think he allowed it didn't look like, at least, he allowed a yard after the catch. It felt like he was in front of every offensive player. It felt like he was just flinging them out of bounds or just kind of boxing them in. Just, again, the presence of just being there. That's one of the strongest games I've seen from Reed Blankenship. I don't even think he did very much in terms of production on a stat sheet. But just being around the ball consistently in the right places and not flying in and missing tackles like Avonte Maddox. On that note, I'll credit where it's due. Our friend Pablo Sanchez, a.k.a. Darius Slay, good day. Don't go into it. Don't ruin it. Don't you dare open up Twitter and start tweeting about it. But good day. All right? Solid. You're not the worst. Now, you're avoiding relegation for me with that. I might consider warming towards you once again after that day. The Georgia boys are starting to come together. Kylie, nice to see you. I hope you are doing well. E-Money Bentley says, Jags 17, Eagles 52. That'd be good. I wouldn't mind a bit of that. I would take that all day. I would love a 50 burger from this team right now. I think there will be nothing crisper just to really set the tone of this. I mean, obviously, we know it's Doug Peterson. There's a bit of history there. I just love it. A, for the numbers that you've picked. I don't think you can pick any better than that. And I see what you've done there. And I'm all on it. But there is just something about ravaging a team that is in a state of disarray. When you're on the come up, you're starting to find a balance. You're beginning to find your identity. I'd be all for it. Absolutely all for it. Nolan and Dean are balling. Even Huff's getting pressures after being allowed to be in a 4-point stance. Yeah, and I think that's the other thing. It's flexibility. And Vic Fangio's defense is built on that. It's on that very trait. It's trying to be flexible, trying to mask coverages, trying to move guys around. And as much as they've been doing it, the back end hasn't been there, right? The back end just hasn't allowed them to do it. You can't drop Jalen Carter into coverage because there isn't anyone there that can come underneath. They can't replicate each other's skill set. With someone like Bryce Huff, who is as quick as he is, with someone like Nolan Smith, who is built almost like Gentry out of Boise State, the way he stands sometimes, just very long-limbed, very thin, but very explosive. I think you need someone that can replicate that, which is naturally a corner or a safety. And you've got that in DeJean. And just having that extra worry, just having the extra player that can aid and give you, especially in a three-man front, a little bit of extra support to create an ISO matchup. Like, I don't know what people are expecting when you've got a defensive end going against a tackle and a guard. Like, it's just never going to end well anyway. But it's just great. Like, the defense is starting to come alive. I see a comment there about Zach Bourne. Defensive MVP. Will not hear another word about it. The real ones who've been watching this show, I know we've got 11 people watching this. If you were here in the offseason and you watched the video the day that Zach Bourne signed, the day the music died, where we watched that Saints highlight tape together, and I did it. I just got a bit flustered. I was like, he's going to be it. He's going to be special. I don't think he's going to be a starter, but as a role player with some real upside, I think he's there. And I also apparently called the Dean breakout. I don't remember that one, Isaac. I'll level with you there. It might have been. Was it in relation to the... I don't know, if I'm honest. I'm not... Too many predictions, but I will take it. Look, if I've called in the Kobe Dean breakout, I think what's happened now is I probably have called it, but I've been so unfortunately obsessed with Zach Bourne and Cooper DeJean at the minute. Oh, okay. All right. He did mean Bourne. I was going to say, otherwise I was going to be, I was like, I got a bit confused. But no, Zach Bourne has been my darling of the offseason. And I hate to say it. Like I think I said it at the time. The comparison for me in terms of like risk to reward, and obviously they're different positions, it was Cravon LeBlanc. It was Captain Cravon, someone that was undrafted, that came from the Saints, that was a bit under the radar. I think Bourne was a 5th round pick, but you know what I mean. But like just under the radar, didn't really have a lot of defensive snaps under his belt, but athletically off the charts. And I think for Bourne, like we said, he's not the most athletically gifted in the room. All right. He's not going to wow you with his click and close. He's not going to have the brute force to mow down a running back at a full head of steam. You can't take Derrick Henry on and run into the ground. But what he does do, as we said in that stream months and months ago, is realize his own weaknesses and play to them so they don't get exploited. If he's not the quickest, he's not going to be in a bad position where his tackling is going to be bad. If he's not the most explosive, he's not going to leave himself 15 yards off the ball. Like, he reads the game quicker because he doesn't have the athletic upside. Like, not many, most people are either like highly gifted in terms of reading a game or incredibly athletic. It's rare you get a blend of the two, let alone someone that can maybe go, hey, I know this one's not so high, so I'm going to go all in on this one. And Bourne just gets it. Like, he understands the game. He reads a defense, like he's reading the Hungry Caterpillar. Or on offense, sorry. And I just think he brings so much to that group. So I'm happy. I hope he sticks around long term. Isaac says Jalen had the best game of the season. He was 6 of 6, 105 and a touchdown thrown over where? Over the middle. Exactly. And again, you look at the way that I think there was that 1 7-minute drive, wasn't there, where they just sapped up the life out of that Bengals team. Like 7 minutes, perfect balance of everything. Calcaterra's involved, AJ's involved, Smitty's involved, Saquon's doing damage, and just the fatigue sets in. And that's the thing. I genuinely think, like, to put it in really simple terms, that the Eagles thought they were like a prize fighter. And I get it. It's like if you're an Anthony Joshua or a Tyson Fury or another big, I don't really familiar with American boxers, but if you're a big name if you're a big name boxer, and you're coming up against someone that doesn't have the experience, like, yeah, whatever. I've got all of it. I don't need to. One punch, bang. Deep shot, AJ, bang. 50-yard Saquon, bang. And you just think that's it. That's it. That's all you've got. I'm known for this. Deep shot. Oh, Smitty's over there. And you're just reliant on those. And when they don't work, look at what happened with Anthony Joshua. And I can't remember the boxer, but like the smaller guy that just completely upset him. I think he was Mexican. I can't remember. Is it Ortiz? Can't remember, but he absolutely battered him and it was funny. But it's like they just got undone because he just didn't have the respect and the awareness to use his assets differently. And what the Eagles have done, instead of just being this fair weather fighter that we've got all this stuff going, is go, do you know what? Just go the distance. Get the endurance in. Wear them down. Because they can't handle... Like, that's the thing, is that you can have an amazing haymaker. You can have the biggest right hand in the game. But if you can't go 4 or 5 rounds, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter how quickly you can get the ball down the field in a pinch if you can't do it consistently. And what the Eagles have learned to do is go, you might be able to stop Saquon for 1 quarter. You might be able to pinch AJ out of a bracket and get him away from the ball for a half. But can you do that to Smitty while you're doing that? Can you stop Calcaterra while you're doing that? And if you do somehow stop them, well, one of those guys we have to mention, Saquon, AJ, even Jalen, are going to create plays. And that's the thing. Like, it's been this mentality shift. If they're no longer just big time plays, big time throws, nothing but deep shots, like all of this motion and none of it's going anywhere, to go stomach us for as long as you can. Make the other team endure as much offensive, like just diet as they can. Make it as miserable as you can. I don't care if it's checkdowns. I don't care if it's options. I don't care if it's Saquon or AJ or Jalen or whoever. Just chip away. 8-minute drives, 7-minute drives. Just wear them down. Make them beg to get to the sideline. Ruin the character, the motivation, the vision that this team is going to win. Suck it out the room and let them know you're in control. And that has really come to fruition over the last two weeks especially. I mean, the first game out of the bye, Cleveland, was hardly pretty. The Giants one was a bit better. It was the kind of game we'd wanted to see, but it didn't have the cherry on the cake. This was the cherry and the sprinkles and the ice cream. And oh, by the way, they were buy one, get one free. Have a second one on the house. Like, that was the level that game was for me. Here's the thing with Jalen. It isn't about volume. It's about efficiency and rhythm. When he is on, he might be one of, if not the most efficient in the league. And I think that's fair. Like, that's the thing. And the only reason he's not one of the best in the league is because he can't do it all the time. That's it. It's just because he can't do it all the time yet. I'll say yet, with the asterisks. I think there's still a lot more to come from that young man. But completely agree. Absolutely completely agree. We also got to talk about the Rodgers and CJ play. Didn't even realize they intercepted. No, neither did I. I mean, that is like Steph Curry and Klay Thompson, like behind the back level awareness. And a shout to Isaiah Rodgers as well. Someone who came up in a pinch. I think it's the second game in a row he's done that now, where a cornerback has gone injured and he's had to step in. Ended up making one of the marquee plays of the game. I thought it was out of bounds. And when they ran down to the end zone, I was all right, they're feeling themselves a bit. They're kind of showing up a bit now. Like, the confidence is, they actually got the ball. Oh, well, great. I did not know that. So, yeah, just an outstanding effort there from Isaiah Rodgers. I don't think anyone has got a bad word to say about him. I think a few people will be a bit disappointed that he hasn't been the starter this year. But when you look at what Quignon's been doing, you can't really fault them. And when you've got a backup, like, bear in mind now, the Eagles' backup cornerbacks here, we're talking the starting tandem of Darius Slay and Quinyon Mitchell. Then in behind both of them, or let's even throw another one. You've got Cooper DeJean in the slot, right? And behind those three, we're talking Isaiah Rodgers, dog. Okay. We're talking Keely Ringo, dog. And we're obviously talking Devontae Maddox, who's a bit more of a puppy, doesn't fit the meme, but alas, you get what I'm saying. So the depth in that secondary now is second to none, and it's super impressive. So, yeah, a lot of reasons to be excited with that. And now they've shown that they can handle a true wide receiver one. I mean, that is by far the toughest test that they've faced all year in trying to stop Jamar Chase. What more can you ask for? Truly, what more can you ask for from a secondary like that? Wins 33, 20 passes, and had more yards than Burrow, who threw 37. And that's the damage this team can do. And a lot of that comes down to, I think, the fact that the defense obviously pulled its socks up and put in a real shift in that second half. But also the fact that if the Eagles start firing on all cylinders and Burrow has to sling it, like, the Bengals can't run the ball. We know that. Like, Zach Moss ain't cutting it. Like, they don't have the run game they did with Joe Mixon back there. And I don't think they really realized how... I think, if I'm honest, they looked at the Miles Sanders Eagles situation or a similar one around the league and went, well, if they can lose their starter, then I'm sure it's only Joe Mixon. We can find another bell cow running back, right? We can get another downhill runner. Not as easily replaceable as, perhaps they once thought, because the absence of Mixon in that backfield has made them so one-dimensional. They've got injuries across the board. It's a struggle for him. And I think I think Nick Sirianni was right. I know he does his typical, post-game spiel about, oh, they're a great team and, they have to be respected. The Bengals are a good team. Like, the Bengals are an extremely good team. So that also has to kind of come into consideration as well. Saw a fun fact that over the middle, passing dead last DVOA is Daniel Jones. Second to last is Patrick Mahomes. He's had a real stinker this season, Patty, and I don't really know where it's come from. Yeah, that is. I would say I'm shocked, but I'm kind of not. But no one's really talking about it, which I find interesting. Yeah, if Jalen Hurts does have an off day, you would think that the sky has fallen down. He's murdered 7 people and, has had 6 affairs by the way that people jump on him. So, like, I don't know. That is bizarre. The offense has only really fully been healthy for one game, week 1, and we still haven't seen the full ceiling. That's a good point as well. Like, I think to get through the slog they did, like, my issue with that is I don't think a lot of the setbacks we saw earlier in the year were down to injuries per se, because a lot of it was like before, like it's all very well not having AJ Brown for a couple of weeks or Smitty for a couple of weeks, but that's not stopping Hurts not getting the ball out quickly, or it's not stopping the coaching decisions sort of thing. But I do agree that with the whole unit back and the whole pack back together, that there is a lot more to come. Like the only way is up, I think, realistically for this offense. I think we've seen as bad as it can be. I think we've seen the floor, which is just an uncoordinated mess with star players bailing you out. Like it's sure it might look worse. There might be weeks it looks worse than that, but the results aren't going to be. Even on this is the reassuring bit, right? If we're to take one takeaway from the first half of the season now, it's that even on their off days, even when they're bad, even when they're struggling and they've got players down, they're going to score. They can move the ball because the individual excellence that offense has is enough to tear down any defense in the NFL. It doesn't matter who's calling the shots, how they're called, when they're called. They've got the ability to wreak havoc. And I think we learned that there and then. So that's the positive, right? If every cloud's got a silver lining, it's that they're now on a 3-game winning streak. The offense outside of those 2 linemen are near enough healthy, and they're beginning to find a rhythm. I'll tell you, the day they get that first quarter touchdown, and I think it's going to be against the Jags because they are horrific, I'm going to lose my mind. I might even shave my head for that. I'm talking launching a drink in the air, jumping over the sofa, doing a somersault. First quarter touchdown, when that first happens, that's it. Away to the races. I think that's the only thing, the only demon they've got left to exercise, really, is that. It's been my theory, says Isaac, that we should see more of Kellen as the season went on, and that's what's happened after the bye. Our under center rate snaps have increased every single week. That's interesting. I haven't spotted that. That's a very good spot from you, Isaac. And I think you could tell, couldn't you, that like going into the bye, I think we all kind of had this horrible feeling in the pit of our stomachs that maybe Nick Sirianni's still in control here. That this doesn't feel like a Kellen Moore offense, does it? This doesn't exactly feel inventive and creative, and it just looks exactly the same as it did last year, doesn't it, Nick? And it's like Sirianni maybe sort of caught on to the fact that it was a bit too obvious and is giving Kellen Moore some control, and the difference has been outstanding. And I think I'll get to your comment in a second, Win, but I think that message right there from Isaac is just as important, because when you're under center, especially with a running back as good as Saquon Barkley, you can do so much when you're under center, because you can fake the play action, you can run him downhill, you can counter him outside, you can run him out to the right, you can go under center with a bit of motion, you can do a screen pass, you can do a 3-step drop. Like, there is so much you can do that will benefit everyone in that offense, and Saquon is the key to all of it. And the fact it's taken them this long to realize that, I won't be mad at them. It's just happened. It's okay. All right. It's just one of those things. But I do think that there is some real value in the way that they have been, flying under center as of late. It's just been just outstanding. Like, if I'm honest, I don't think I've got a single negative word to say, which as a British man is quite hard for me to do. Like, to look at the way that this team has got, even in the space of 3 weeks, struggled against the Browns, got it done. Better against the Giants, not great, more convincing win. And when they needed to the most, against the Bengals on the road, best game they've played all season. And it's not even remotely close. So I am ecstatic, I think, with the progress that this team has been making. Is it possible there was just too much of Kellen to install without seeing live reps? Do you know what? I would not even disagree with that. I think that is absolutely bang on. and a testament to the fact they probably need preseason reps. Like the fact that they played no preseason. If we're being really, really cynical, if we're being very tinfoil hat, annoying people that you'd see posts on like Eagles fan groups on Facebook, if we're being those guys, you would say that hypothetically preseason is 3 weeks. The Eagles in week 1 looked all right. Then you got week 2, week 3. You've got a couple injuries. You've got the early bye. And when they come out of the bye, it's like that's the start of their regular season. It's like they've played 3 preseason games, had a week off, got a few guys back to full health, and they've just come storming out the gates. So it very well could be. And maybe just a bye week where they don't have the pressure of a game. They don't have the outside noise of the press. They don't have the even internal pressure of themselves if we've got to fix this. And they can just focus on the fundamentals and the basics and the execution. Maybe that helped. Maybe that was a big deal. Like it's hard to see such an extreme change from where we were in that horrible loss against Tampa Bay to where we are now. And without a catalyst, like that just doesn't happen in the space of a month. But maybe it's just a case again of like they've gone, like I said earlier in the show, if you're new to this and you miss the analogy, you're in for a good one. If you've heard it already, buckle up. I'm going to bore you again. But look, 2022 Philadelphia Eagles with a PlayStation Portable. They had everything. It was ahead of its time. It's now widely revered as one of the best consoles of all time. It could play films. It could play games. It could play music. It had a web browser. It could play online. The graphics were amazing. And then Sony launched the PlayStation Vita, which was just this souped up version with all the bells and whistles of dual analog sticks and a touchpad on the back and a touchpad on the front and incredible graphics. And no one bought it because the memory cards were pathetic. The games weren't supported by like developers. No one wanted to make games for it. And it faded out. And it's like the Eagles in 2024 were the PlayStation Vita. They had all the bells and whistles, all the makings of a generational team. And it's like they've just gone, you know what? We don't need them. Turn them back. Turn them back. Let's just get back to our PSP roots. We've got all we need right here. We can run under center. We can run option looks. We can get Jalen moving. And that's going to give us just as much consumer happiness as a PlayStation Vita would. And that's it. I don't think I've ever found a better analogy in my life, to be brutally honest with you. The highest graded linebackers, says Birdbrain, by Pro Football Focus this week were Dean and... you know what? I'm getting a Zach Bourne jersey. I'm amazed I haven't yet. The only thing stopping me is that he's only on a 1-year contract. And I don't want him going this offseason and breaking my heart. Like, I'm genuinely going to be in pieces if that man leaves this offseason. I'm gutted. I've never been so emotionally attached to someone that's come in, like, just on the back of watching their Saints footage. Like, that stream we shared, if you were here in that stream earlier this offseason, I'm like that Vince McMahon meme where he's like, he was special. Like, that's me to Zach Bourne in that stream. I was like, he's got it. That's the guy. On a budget, cheap and cheerful, he's gonna produce. And he has. And I'm so happy. But I think, I mean, in terms of the team, the bigger one is obviously Nakobe Dean, right? Because they have invested in him. Like, he was a higher draft pick. He's only got 2 years left on his contract. He's been given excuses. He's been given let-offs, and they've been very light on him, considering he's still given these opportunities. And now he's making the most of them, that the patience is worth it. It was worth the wait. They do have a genuine, not only starter, but potentially top-tier caliber linebacker in Nakobe Dean if he can stay healthy and continue to develop at the rate he is. And that has to count for something. It really does. So I'm all for that. I think Nakobe's breakout, again, benefits the team more long-term because they do have a bit more leverage with him and they can keep him around longer. Probably more likely to get a contract extension. Zach's a little bit older. And, you know, the fact that he's only on a 1-year deal, does he get a good season and then bounce out? Like, hard to say. It's too early to say, but we'll see. Hassan Reddick made a wild tweet similar to Antonio Brown about about Jill Belichick, apparently. About Bill Belichick. Oh, God, really? So this is what Hassan Reddick said. Ayo, someone call Bill Belichick and give him a job. Seems like he's home bored and can't keep me out of his mouth. Come up for air, why don't you? No, did he? Don't really know what to say to that. Is he? I don't think he's taken it very well, is he, Hassan Red? Hasn't he just like worked out the contract though? Hasn't he like just signed? Isn't he coming back? Like, no, I know it's the tweet, but that's just, what is that? That's like, I thought Darius Slay was bad. That is, I mean, I get it, sort of. I think he's talking about the wrong kind of job, though, by the look of that tweet. You know what I mean? I think Hassan might be looking to get a little bit of that 2026 third round pick is so worth it. Yeah, that is a headache that the Eagles didn't need, and it's a shame, man. Like, I hate when stuff like that happens because he's such a talented player. Like, if I'm being dead honest, he should have been paid 2 or 3 years ago. All he wanted was that payday. Whether it was the Panthers, whether it was the Cardinals, whether it was the Eagles, like, he just wanted his money. And he played his ass off every single year and performed so far above expectations that you thought he's going to get it. Like, it's fine. He's got it lined up. This is the year he gets the fabled 4-year, half guaranteed extension. And it never came. And I get why he bet on himself. I don't understand why it went to this degree. Like, at some point, you just call a spade and go, all right, well, I'm not getting what I want, but I can at least get close to it. You know, I wanted the trade. I got the trade. I should probably play for them and maybe they'll pay me, or, you know, I can get a slightly better deal. I don't know, man. Like, and I just hope that he's okay mentally, like, not in like a mean way, but just like that he's got a good support system around him. Cause I can't even imagine the stress of like building over 4 years of knowing that you are worth what the top edge rushers are getting. And you're seeing guys like Chase Young get theirs and you can't get yours, despite arguably outperforming them over that time, then getting to this point. I just hope he's got the right people in his ear in terms of supporting him, you know, to not make bad decisions. Like, I don't even just mean like personally, but just financially and stuff. Like, you see it a lot with NFL players, and especially when it is so money hungry. But here's what it is. Before the season, I just hoped Huff and Nolan would combine for what Hassan gave us, and I'm glad it's happening. Me too. Yeah, and that's the thing. Like, Huff's presence on that defensive line was always going to be directly correlated to Nolan Smith, no matter how you slice it. Because, like you said in your comment, like, that's the 1-2 punch. Like, you are never going to replace... It's like Moneyball, all right? You cannot replace Hassan Reddick, but you can replace him in the aggregate. And the aggregate was a situational edge rusher that was coming off a 10-sack season that has all the firepower in the world in a short burst, and a first-round pick that could become a top-level edge rusher long-term and, like, you know, those 70% of snap-level guys. It's just going to take time to click. And it now is, because Smith can thrive. And when Smith has got to tag out, you've got a red-hot Bryce Huff to come in and rip things up against beaten down linemen. And that's all this team has been vying for, you know, since that tandem was built. So I'm happy for it. Win says, bigger dumpster fire. Jets, Browns, or Panthers, or Saints with a -81. I keep forgetting that with the Saints of how absolutely annihilated they are. I can't wait to see how even to get themselves back even, they're going to need to gut, like, big players. Like, someone even like Chris Olave could be on the trade block. You're talking, like, you need to gut that roster ASAP. I don't even know what they're going to do. Like, what happens if, like, you just can't pay the cap space? What do you do if you're over it too much? Do the NFL just fine you? Put even more? Like, surely they should just take picks away. Just let them stay with the cap space and, you know, take their, like, 3 picks away or something. But the bigger dumpster fire, I would say... all right, let's do them one by one. The Jets, I don't think, are a dumpster fire because Aaron Rodgers is all right. He's just not the Aaron Rodgers we once knew. Brees exists. Garrett Wilson exists. The defense is all right, and they can win games. The Browns are always a dumpster fire. The Deshaun Watson stuff is intrinsically funny. Like, in terms of his play on the field being miserable and calm. Like, I don't mean what he actually did. But then I'd kind of sillily root for Jameis Winston. Like, I always want Jameis Winston to do well. So part of me is hoping they're not. But in terms of a roster, yeah, absolute mess. I would say, like, of all of them, it probably is the Panthers because the Bryce Young experiment is so unrelated. Oh, sorry, unrelated. I just read the unrelated question from Bird Brain. But the Bryce Young draft selection has been so wasted. They bring in Miles Sanders, wasted. They cannot get receivers. They cannot get defensive players to do anything. Like, it's Chubba Hubbard running around at this point. I don't know. I just think that the Panthers are such a culturally lacking mess. Like, they're just so far away from any realm of even playing remotely winning football that I can't possibly buy it. The Browns, I could see shithousing something. The Saints will win games. The Jets will win games. The Panthers, I ain't got a clue. I don't even. I would hate to be on the Panthers beat or covering that team, needing to go into work every day and just like ask, guys, what's going on? What are you doing? How do you turn up for work every day? Like, what is the motivation by that point? So Josh says he's from North Carolina, and it's the owner that's the issue. He ran the soccer team into the ground too. That's interesting. Yeah, there's just no stability. And like teams get like that. Like I get the impatience, but you need to give, especially with a rebuild, like rebuilds aren't going to happen overnight. It's very rare that you take like a 2 or 3 win team and get them to that 7 to 8 mark in one off season. It just doesn't happen. So there's got to be more patience. Bird Brain and his related question now. So should we make a move at the deadline and who should we get? I was hoping for Uche from the Patriots and that's not going to happen now. Yeah, it was weird. If you asked me 2 weeks ago, I'd have said an edge rusher. And sort of knocked on my door then, but I think my washing machine just burst into life. Sorry. Yeah, 2 weeks ago, I'd have said an edge rusher. Now I wouldn't. And I'm kind of happy that Howie didn't go out and get one when the markets were just opening up in terms of the trade window because I think they're all right. I don't know. It's a really good question. I think if anything, you should probably move. You should probably be sellers. Right? I would move Darius Slay. In a heartbeat. Give it to Isaiah Rodgers. Get a 5th round pick. Give Quinion the captaincy. Give anyone the captaincy. Give it to Zach Bourne. Give it to Reed Blankenship. Get him out. Get him gone. There you go. That's my trade deadline move. Get Slay moved. Off he goes. Bye. Kenny Gainwell. You've got Will Shipley. You don't need Gainwell, and he gets thrown around like prime Donnell Pumphrey, which was never the case last year. But he seemed to last game against the Bengals. He seemed to really get manhandled a bit more, I noticed. So you could probably get a pick for that. Like, again, 6th round, maybe 5th, 6th round. I think it's his contract year anyway. I mean, maybe look at a guard or a tackle. I know depth is light. Tyler Steen wasn't bad, I don't think, against the Bengals. But with Mailata down, we know Lane isn't the healthiest person at the minute. Like going off recent memory with his ankles and stuff. Fred Johnson's a swing tackle, but in the hypothetical instance where Lane goes down as well, I really don't know what they're going to do. I'm pretty sure it might be like Kinnard or someone that ends up moving. So, yeah, I would probably try and find a swing tackle or guard. Just like, 38-year-old. Bring Jason Peters back. Fuck it. Why not? Let's bring Jason Peters back again one more time. Again, like, great point. Shipley's on the field being just as effective. Like, it's not like Shipley is in a point now where he's just sat there twiddling his thumbs. With the Eagles being the way they are, he's getting experience, and I don't think he looks that far away from what Kenny Gainwell's giving you anyway. So, yeah, like I'd be all for that. So for me though, I would stay with an edge rusher. Like in terms of buying, I can't think of anywhere else, which is mad, isn't it? Because all I've done for 7 of the 8 weeks, this is the first week I've done a stream where I've not been like incandescent with rage talking about the Philadelphia Eagles. For 7 of the 8 weeks, I've been fist slamming the table, demanding change. And when it comes to the trade deadline, you're asking what I would do. And I'm like, I don't know. Not a lot. And that sums up this Eagles team. Is they've got the pieces. just comes down to execution, just comes down to, better coaching, which I think we're starting to see, and a more established identity, which I think we're also starting to see. PSP, not PS Vita. What do I think of our new fullback, BVS? I'm amazed I haven't touched on that sooner. I've completely forgot. But Ben Van Summeren, I think I pronounced that right. I love the experiment. There's a small part of me that wishes they did it with my Lata. But he's a guy that I've sounded like prime Chris Collingsworth there, but he's really become a guy that they've wanted to keep around. Like, he's been on that team, 3 years now? And they just can't get him on the field defensively. So they've moved him to fullback. And look, if you can get an extra blocker to pave open a way for Saquon Barkley, and he meets blockers head on, he's a linebacker, so he's not exactly afraid of, the guys in front of him. He's used to seeing them up here anyway. I don't mind it. I don't mind it at all. That's the kind of creative vision and the thinking that I think is going to separate this team in the long run. And they've never really pulled a trigger on a move like that before. So it's fun to see. It's really fun to see. And I hope that they can maybe get him a touchdown or something down that, maybe even against the Jags, because it's only the Jags and they're not going to cause too much bother, I don't think. So that will be fun. I want Myles Garrett, says win. But honestly, for team chemistry, staying put's probably correct. Slay's a mentor to the youngins. As much as I hate to agree, I do agree. I think they do look up to him. Yeah, you're probably right. Saquon and Kenny have a relationship. Ooh, no, sorry. Yeah, they do. You're right. I do think that that's the play. Just stay put. Keep the players you've got. If you are going to move anyone, just move Slay. But don't tell anyone. Yeah, I think there's no need. Don't rock the boat. Don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. All right, you're on a 3-game winning streak. You've just put in the game of your lifetime on both sides of the ball. Don't mess with it now. All right, unless you're going to bring in additional depth on the offensive front or at defensive end, then there's no need to rock the boat. I love the Q&A we've got at the end, the impromptu Q&A. Big fan. Who scores a touchdown first, BVS, Shipley, or Calcaterra? I'm saying Calcaterra purely because I've been betting on this man for 2 weeks and he's been printing. His line was 50 yards. I put it in an article for PSN. Let me see what the line... I want to say it was like plus 120 to get 50 yards. It might have been more than that. But I had it in a same-game parlay and that cashed, which was great. But I only put like $1 on it, so it didn't really matter too much to me. Where is it? I need to find it now. I really want to find it. Hang on. I promise I won't waste your time. Where is it? Oh, that was it. No, sorry. Look at this for a line. Grant Calcaterra over 25 receiving yards, minus 105. Thank you for the free money, DraftKings. That's very kind of you to offer that to me. 25 yards, minus 105. Are you having a giggle? You having a laugh? Thank you very much. Keep pricing him. Keep pricing him like that. Keep doing it. I'll keep doing this. You keep giving, I'll keep taking, mate. You keep giving, I'll keep taking. Yeah. I think especially while God, that's the thing. If Goddard's to come back in a few weeks, probably Shipley. If Goddard doesn't, Calcaterra. Like, he's becoming such a key thing in this offense now. Like, his targets are going up every single game, I swear. Let me just get his game log up because I was looking at this before last game. I think he ended up with like 5 targets in not last week, the week before. Right, hang on. Game log. He shaved his head. Didn't know he shaved his head. All right, yeah. So he had 3 targets, 3 receptions for 58 yards against the Bengals. 4 for 4 for 67 against the Browns. 2 for 2 against the Falcons. 1 for 1 against Green Bay. He's caught 12 of 13 passes, man, for 186 yards and 15 yards per reception. He's class. He's really solid. So yeah, considering he's getting now, like, if you go off the like 1, 2, his last 4 games, he's averaging like 2.5 receptions per game. It's also worth noting as well. So it's worth noting that Calcaterra and Hurts, for those that don't know, were teammates briefly at Oklahoma. So they did I think they had a 1-season overlap there. And I think it was Calcaterra's best season as well. So they knew each other going in. And it's obviously now beginning to translate to the pros. And it's cool. Like, I am all for a Grant Calcaterra breakout. I want the touchdown. I want to see it. Because how long have we been waiting for a backup tight end we can actually trust to develop? We've seen the Tyree Jacksons of the world. We've seen the Richard, whatever he's called, from Green Bay. We've seen Zama. We've seen everyone. All right, it doesn't matter. They've all been useless. Jack Stoll is relieved of that conversation because of that meaty block. He's exempt, but they just haven't had one. They haven't been able to find a tight end behind Goddard, and we've always missed, I think, that 1-2 punch of Ertz and Goddard. It's just not been there. So Calcaterra beginning to develop the way he is, like the confidence is building with every play. He's so lethal in open space. He moves like a wide receiver. I need it. Give me that touchdown. And look, if DraftKings are going to keep giving me minus 105 on 25 yards, I will keep taking it until that cow don't dance no more. I will tell you that for free. I'll trade Goddard. He's always hurt. Yeah, I would say it'll be one of them where you let his contract expire. I think he means too much to the team. Like, he's been there since, was it 2018? I think they got him. So it's what, like 8 years. I think 8 years, 7-8 years of Dallas Goddard now. Just let his contract run. Like, when he's healthy, he's fine. It's just the injuries. But like, if you've got someone like Calcaterra that with Goddard progressively getting, more injury prone, you can slowly phase in. It makes that transition seamless. It doesn't become dropping someone into the deep end that isn't ready for it. They get up to pace over an elongated period. And it's kind of a way to negate the loss, I think. Yeah, 2018, so 8 years. So that'll be my take. Like, just don't rock the boat yet. Don't, trade Goddard, but maybe just start pushing Calcaterra to be your future TE1. Like, even when Goddard's back, just every few snaps, just put him back out there, see if the production moves, and then you have that tricky conversation with Dallas, maybe once the season is over. We're talking to being over. That is the end of the stream. Again, apologies for not streaming much. Over the last couple of weeks, it has been an extremely busy period, but I appreciate all of your patience. I'm not going, though. I told you, look, I'm locked in. I'm not going anywhere. I'm waiting for Apple to release their new Macs so I can buy one and hopefully start editing videos again and try some things with the YouTube channel and see what we can sprinkle on there in terms of source. So there might be some fun stuff happening if they release it. I've been waiting for weeks for this announcement, but we'll see. But I do want one of them, so we'll see. But thank you all for your patience. Liam, you're good. You're an executive now. I know. It's a tiring life, though. The hairline reflects it. The hairline does reflect it. Maybe snag that Penn State tight end too, Tyler Warren. I will add him to my very early spreadsheet, and we can watch him in the offseason, I promise. But enjoy your Monday night. I will see you on Wednesday night when we go at it again and go over some more Eagles headlines, obviously previewing the week ahead. Thank you all for hanging out. Go Birds. A win. We beat the Bengals, and now we can take it off. We can take a relaxing Monday night, watch the ESPN broadcast, and just go, do you know what? Sweet taste of victory, and enjoy it all. And believe me, I will always be slumming it with all of you. I'm in here forever. You will never get rid of me. I will be haunting you every waking nightmares on these streams, I promise with you. So thanks for hanging out, guys. Go Birds. We're back in the win column. You've got Flipping the Birds coming tomorrow. Don't forget that. I think we've got the Flyers stream as well. Me on Wednesday. I think we've got something Thursday, and then me again Friday. So you've got a stat week of PSN content. Take care. Go Birds. It's trying to play the Flipping the Birds outro. Brian is invading every aspect of my life. Look at him. I didn't want to end the stream. Where's my outro? That's what I want. There it is. Right. We'll try it again. The fifth goodbye. Take care. Go Birds. I'll see you later.